For 6 long months, the students sitting in the back row of room 302 heard a faint, rhythmic clicking sound coming from directly above their heads. Pause. 0.8s. Every single day during third period history, the noise would start up like clockwork. Pause. 0.4s. A soft metallic snap, followed by what sounded like a heavy, hollow scrape against the plaster. Pause. 0.6s. They complained to the school administration multiple times, but they were repeatedly brushed off. Pause. 0.5s. The principal told them it was just an old building being old, nothing more than the heating pipes expanding in the winter cold. Pause. 0.8s. They were dead wrong. Pause. 1.5s. To understand how this nightmare remained hidden in plain sight, you have to look at the layout of Oak Ridge High School. Pause. 0.6s. Built in the late 1970s, the entire structure utilized standard commercial drop ceilings, hundreds of lightweight square foam tiles resting loosely on a thin metal grid. Pause. 0.8s. Above those tiles lay a massive, unlit crawlspace containing ventilation shafts, electrical wiring, and a dark expanse of fiberglass insulation. Pause. 1.0s. It was a world completely invisible to the teenagers sitting below, but to someone else, it was a flawless network of hidden highways. Pause. 1.2s. The teacher in room 302 was Mr. Thomas Davis. Pause. 0.7s. He was a quiet, unassuming man in his late 40s who had been with the school district for over a decade. Pause. 0.5s. He wasn't the type of teacher people feared. In fact, he was widely liked because he rarely handed out detentions and kept to himself. Pause. 0.6s. But Mr. Davis had a highly specific routine. Pause. 0.9s. He arrived at the school at 6 a.m., long before the janitorial staff unlocked the front gates, and he routinely stayed until 7 p.m., claiming he needed absolute silence to grade his students' essays and prepare his lesson plans. Pause. 1.4s. By mid-November, the subtle anomalies in room 302 began to escalate beyond a simple clicking noise. Pause. 0.6s. A student named Chloe, who sat directly beneath the center ceiling tile, noticed something strange every Monday morning. Pause. 0.8s. Her desk, which she always aligned perfectly with the floor tiles on Friday afternoon, would be pushed back exactly 3 inches. Pause. 0.5s. Even stranger, a fine layer of white powdery drywall dust was consistently scattered across the dark plastic of her chair. Pause. 0.7s. When she pointed it out to Mr. Davis, he smiled warmly, wiped the dust away with a paper towel, and told her the maintenance crew must have been working on the overhead air filters over the weekend. Pause. 1.5s. But the maintenance crew hadn't touched room 302 in months. Pause. 0.8s. The real breakthrough happened on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in early December. Pause. 0.5s. A student dropped a stray pen, which rolled off the back of his desk and slid into the narrow gap between the drywall and the heavy cast-iron wall radiator. Pause. 0.7s. Crouching down to retrieve it, his hand didn't find the pen. Pause. 0.6s. Instead, his fingers brushed against a cold, circular object coated in a thick, sticky layer of gray attic dust. Pause. 0.9s. He pulled it out into the classroom light. Pause. 1.1s. It was a heavy, professional-grade DSLR camera lens cap. Pause. 1.6s. The student immediately handed the lens cap to Mr. Davis, thinking another student had lost it. Pause. 0.7s. According to eyewitnesses in the room, the teacher's reaction was instantaneous. Pause. 0.5s. His face went completely pale, and his hands began to shake so violently that he dropped his dry erase marker. Pause. 0.8s. He quickly snatched the lens cap, shoved it into his pocket, and abruptly told the class to open their textbooks to page 240, ending any further discussion. Pause. 1.0s. That was the exact moment the students realized the danger wasn't coming from an old building. Pause. 0.6s. The danger was sitting right at the front teacher's desk. Pause. 1.8s. 2 days later, the tension reached a boiling point. Pause. 0.5s. A high school junior named Marcus stayed behind after the final bell to get extra help on an upcoming exam. Pause. 0.8s. As he sat at his desk writing, the heavy school building grew completely quiet. Pause. 0.6s. Suddenly, a distinct shifting sound echoed from directly above the ceiling grid, followed by the unmistakable, agonizingly slow sound of a human foot shifting its weight on a wooden beam. Pause. 0.9s. Marcus froze, looking up at the ceiling tiles, which were visibly bowing downward under immense weight. Pause. 1.2s. Before Marcus could speak, the fluorescent lights in room 302 completely died, plunging the classroom into pitch-black darkness. Pause. 0.8s. From the front of the room, Mr. Davis's voice sliced through the shadows, unusually cold, sharp, and hovering just inches away from Marcus's face. Pause. 1.0s. He said, "The breakers in this wing are faulty." Pause. 0.6s. "You need to pack your things and leave through the side exit immediately." Pause. 0.5s. "Do not look back and do not come back tonight." Pause. 1.1s. Terrified, Marcus grabbed his backpack and ran into the hallway, leaving the teacher standing alone in the dark. Pause. 2.0s. Knowing something was deeply wrong, Marcus and his classmate Tyler decided to take matters into their own hands. Pause. 0.7s. The next afternoon, instead of leaving when the final bell rang, they slipped into a narrow supply closet at the far end of the hallway and hid behind a stack of floor buffers. Pause. 0.9s. At exactly 4:15 p.m., the school became a ghost town. Pause. 0.5s. Peering through the horizontal slats of the closet door, they watched Mr. Davis walk out of room 302, look both ways down the corridor, and lock the classroom door from the inside. Pause. 1.2s. Through the thin drywall, they heard the unmistakable sound of a heavy metal extension ladder being dragged across the linoleum floor and pressed against the ceiling grid. Pause. 0.8s. Then came the creak of aluminum rungs under heavy steps, followed by the soft thud of a ceiling tile being pushed wide open. Pause. 1.0s. Mr. Davis was climbing straight up into the darkness above his own classroom. Pause. 1.5s. The students slipped out of the closet, ran directly to the nearest police station, and demanded an officer accompany them back to the school. Pause. 0.8s. When law enforcement finally forced their way into that dusty ceiling crawlspace 48 hours later, they didn't just find a makeshift wooden platform and a camera rig pointed down through a drilled hole in the tile. Pause. 1.1s. Hidden beneath a thick sheet of fiberglass insulation, they discovered a pristine smartphone belonging to a student named Jessica Miller, a young girl who had mysteriously vanished from the school district 3 years prior. Pause. 1.3s. And the phone was actively plugged into a live hidden charging cable running from the building's main power grid. Pause. 1.6s. What forensic detectives discovered inside the encrypted video folders on that recovered smartphone changed the entire investigation from a simple case of voyeurism into a massive multi-state manhunt. Pause. 1.2s. We will reveal exactly what those chilling videos showed in just a moment. Pause. 0.7s. But to truly understand how that phone ended up inside the ceiling space of room 302, we first have to look at the second school on our list, a school located 30 miles away, where the exact same architectural modifications had just been uncovered. Pause. 2.5s. As news of the discovery at Oak Ridge High School leaked to the local press, the police department's phone lines were flooded with tips. Pause. 0.6s. Investigators quickly pulled Mr. Davis's complete employment history and realized he hadn't spent his entire career at Oak Ridge. Pause. 0.8s. 3 years earlier, the exact same year Jessica Miller went missing, he had transferred from Westville Academy, an older private institution known for its outdated architecture and sprawling, interconnected attic networks. Pause. 1.4s. A specialized forensic team was dispatched to Westville Academy to audit every single classroom Davis had ever taught in. Pause. 0.7s. What they found proved this wasn't a sudden lapse in judgment, but a highly calculated, years-long operation. Pause. 0.9s. In the ceiling directly above the varsity girls' locker room, detectives found a sophisticated network of wooden planks laid across the exposed ceiling joists. Pause. 0.6s. These planks formed a continuous structural walkway that allowed someone to move silently across the entire length of the building without ever setting foot on the ground floor. Pause. 1.5s. Along this hidden walkway, investigators found small, battery-operated audio recording devices fastened to the aluminum support brackets with black electrical tape. Pause. 0.8s. Each device was meticulously labeled with handwritten dates and timestamps matching specific school gym schedules from 3 years prior. Pause. 1.0s. The scale of the surveillance was staggering, but it raised a terrifying question for the cybercrimes unit. Pause. 0.6s. Why would a single history teacher spend thousands of hours collecting data he could never safely share or show to anyone? Pause. 1.8s. The answer arrived when federal agents executed a late-night search warrant on Mr. Davis's isolated suburban home. Pause. 0.7s. Outwardly, the house was immaculate, looking like the residence of an ordinary, orderly schoolteacher. Pause. 0.5s. But behind a heavy, dead-bolted door in the basement lay a massive, custom-built server rack containing over 40 terabytes of encrypted storage drives. Pause. 1.1s. It took the digital forensics unit nearly 3 weeks to crack the multi-layered encryption protocols protecting the drives. Pause. 0.8s. When the files finally populated on screen, the true horror of the operation came to light. Pause. 0.6s. Davis wasn't just hoarding these recordings for himself. Pause. 0.5s. He was operating a highly lucrative, subscription-based portal on an encrypted dark web network known among bad actors as the Faculty Lounge. Pause. 1.3s. The portal featured live, high-definition audio feeds streamed directly from the pinhole camera arrays hidden within the ceiling vents of both schools. Pause. 0.8s. Users from all over the world paid thousands of dollars in untraceable cryptocurrency to access these live streams in real time. Pause. 0.7s. The digital footprint revealed that at the exact moment Marcus was sitting in room 302 hearing those footsteps in the ceiling, dozens of anonymous users were actively listening to his breathing through the live server link. Pause. 1.8s. But the most crucial piece of evidence remained inside Jessica Miller's recovered smartphone, the loop that police desperately needed to close. Pause. 0.9s. When the state forensic lab bypassed the phone's lock screen, they found a single, final video recorded at 5:42 p.m. on the night she vanished 3 years earlier. Pause. 1.2s. The video was entirely dark, but the audio captured Jessica's frantic whispers as she hid inside the empty school library, stating that she had found a hidden camera lens inside her locker and was being actively pursued through the hallways by her history teacher. Pause. 1.5s. Realizing his digital network had fallen into police hands, Mr. Davis cleared his bank accounts, abandoned his vehicle at a local transit station, and attempted to flee across the northern state border under a stolen identity. Pause. 0.9s. However, his technological sophistication ultimately proved to be his downfall. Pause. 0.6s. Federal agents tracked his location using a hard-coded hardware address embedded within one of his active dark web server nodes, locating him at a secluded roadside motel less than 10 miles from the border crossing. Pause. 1.4s. The tactical unit breached his motel room door at dawn, arresting him without further incident. Pause. 0.7s. Confronted with the overwhelming digital archive, the physical camera setups, and the undeniable audio evidence from Jessica Miller's phone, Davis surrendered his defense strategy. Pause. 0.6s. He accepted a plea bargain that carried a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, ensuring he would never step foot inside an educational institution again. Pause. 1.8s. Today, room 302 at Oak Ridge High School looks completely different. Pause. 0.6s. The lightweight drop ceiling tiles have been entirely torn down, replaced by solid, unbreachable industrial drywall sheets and exposed steel tracking that leaves no room for shadows or secrets. Pause. 1.1s. But the psychological damage inflicted on the community cannot be repaired with basic construction. Pause. 1.3s. Every afternoon, as the final school bell rings and the crowded corridors slowly empty into silence, the students who survived those classes find themselves looking up. Pause. 1.0s. They look at the small air vents, the dark corners of the library, and the tiny gaps in the acoustic panels, wondering if the clicking sound they hear is just an old heating pipe expanding. Pause. 0.8s, or if someone else is silently watching them from above.